Hi, welcome to Comptroller's Corner. I'm your host, Pat Curry, joined as always by Buffalo Comptroller Mark Schroeder. Our top story today, an arbitration panel has awarded the city of Buffalo $200,000 as a result of an audit conducted by Comptroller Schroeder on the Erie Basin Marina. Schroeder's audit found that the former operator of the marina had been shortchanging taxpayers by underpaying its rent every year from 2005 to 2013. Now, Mark, this arbitration panel award is a real vindication for you and your auditors that worked so hard to find these underpayments from the operator, the former operator of the marina, Brandon Services.
Yeah, no question about it, Patrick. This was a rather celebrated audit. Most times when a controller's office does an audit, the audit is the audit. It will identify what the findings are, and you make your recommendations. And then those within the administration will do what they're going to do about it. They're either going to adhere to what we're suggesting or they're not. This kind of took on a life of its own because during this audit, we made it very clear, as you stated in your opening remarks, that the vendor clearly underpaid the city of Buffalo, and so we identified that clearly in the audit, both on the marina side and also on the Hatch restaurant side. And so therefore, to the city's credit, to the mayor's credit, to Tim Ball, the Corporation Council, and others, to the Commissioner in Public Works, they really took it to the next step. When we identified what we identified in terms of what they owed us, and obviously the vendor wasn't just going to pay whatever that amount was, then it went to the arbitration process. The arbitration process took a while, but at the end of the day, even though it was an award, we earned that. That was owed to us. Via the contract, that was owed to us. And so this kind of puts it behind us. And also, I think, Patrick, it sends a clear message to all vendors doing business in the city of Buffalo. We are watching. It's our responsibility to watch. And we are going to continue to do it. It doesn't matter whether it's the cafeteria in the cafeteria or whether it's the property owned by the city of Buffalo, the Erie Basin Marina. We are going to watch.
Now, the $200,000 award is currently accruing interest at the rate of 9%, roughly $50 a day until this operator pays. So that really gives an incentive to this operator to pay as soon as possible, or the award gets bigger and bigger.
Right, of course. And so I think this sort of gives the picture to the citizens of Buffalo what kind of an operator this was. It's very clear that they owe the city of Buffalo this amount of money. And so you would think they would have paid it right away. But $50 a day really essentially is the penalty, which benefits the taxpayers. So at the end of the day, the job really for us in City Hall is to get paid the amount owed the city, and as you've suggested, it's in process right now.
Just breaking down the award. $150,000 of that $200,000 award results from fuel sales, which the city was not paid the proper amount. Now, Brandon Services arbitrarily and unilaterally changed the rate that they were paying for fuel sales from 10% of sales to 10 cents a gallon, which anyone who's bought gas recently knows that 10% of is far less. It's about a third or a quarter of what, especially during the time this audit was conducted, about what they should have been paying.
Sure. So let's just take an example. If a gallon of fuel for the boat costs $4, okay, under the agreement in writing, that's 10%, 40 cents is owed to the city. But as you suggested, they arbitrarily changed it to 10 cents a gallon, 10 cents on the $4, right? Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, just take a simple number like 80,000 gallons. At 10 cents a gallon, the city of Buffalo would only get $8,000. Wrong. That's wrong. It's 10%. 10% of 80,000 gallons would be $32,000. It's a big difference from $8,000. This was what's going on. And this is what I think you've suggested. Most of the award has to do with $154,000 is exactly that, underpaying that 10 cents a gallon thing versus 10%. Wrong. And that is not going to be tolerated. And Patrick, as you know, and we've been very clear about this, everybody knows what the rules are. You want to change the contract? There is a way to do it. So do it properly. And
this operator had changed the contract and went through the Common Council for other things that benefited them, like an $87,000 a year deduction in their rent. So they knew the process of going to the council, getting the contract changed, and they didn't do it in this case for the fuel. And the arbitration panel agreed with us in the city in that finding.
And I also want to point out, I mean, this took place long before we ever got to the 12th floor as the comptroller. Also, this took place before the mayor ever got to the second floor. This change in contract took place in a different administration. And quite frankly, I don't know if anybody within the Department of Public Works was complicit, working with the vendor, wink, wink, oh yeah, it's 10 cents a gallon, not 10% a gallon. I don't know. I don't know what happened. All I know is that we have a responsibility to do an overview. We did it. We were very clear about the results are, and at the end of the day, the arbitration award has come in clear. Plus, even more important than all of this, I believe we have set the pace going forward. The administration has adhered to every recommendation we made in terms of going forward in having bona fide vendors, plural, one vendor with expertise to take care of the marina side, and a vendor with expertise to take care of the restaurant. Both went through a RFP process. That's a referral process. They have to identify in writing to what they're going to do and at what price they're going to do it. And so at the end of the day, this was a grand slam audit. It did everything an audit's supposed to do, and I am extremely proud of Kevin Kaufman, the city auditor, and Forty Sherino, our first deputy, and the team of auditors who did a very, very good job on this work.
Now, you mentioned the new operators of both the Marina and the Hatch restaurant and the ship store. Your 2014 audit found that since that new operator has been in place, revenue to the city has increased more than 77%.
Yeah.
And part of that is, if you break down the arbitration award, those sales from the Hatch and the ship store account for $44,000 of the money that was owed to the city. So now that we have a vendor in there that's actually giving the city what they're entitled to and what they've earned as per the contract, the city is seeing more money in its pockets because at the end of the day, because we have an honest and open vendor operating the Hatch.
No question about it. And that doesn't mean a vendor can't fall asleep periodically. And during this audit, it's very apparent that 77% more is good for the city of Buffalo. But to the commissioner's credit, and I think this is what happened, Patrick, when you do an audit of this caliber, to the commissioner's credit, the commissioner is paying attention now in real time and noticed that the new vendor, wasn't exactly paying exactly on time. And they were sent a letter telling them that they are going to adhere to the contract. To me, that is very, very positive because it doesn't take a long time. You know, when you do an audit, you're usually doing an audit when a year end has closed, it takes some time, and then whatever the potential vendor is doing wrong, they continue to do wrong. Within the very first year of the contract, the commissioner noticed that even if it's just a day or two off on when they're supposed to pay, He identified it and said it's not going to work this way. And I give them credit because it makes it easier for us down the road to make sure that these vendors understand that we mean business, the city side and also the comptroller's office.
Now, another dispute that the arbitration panel settled between the city and Brandon was the ownership of the floating docks.
Yeah.
Now, Brandon said that they own the floating docks, and the city said that we own the floating docks, the taxpayers owned it. Now, the floating docks would have cost nearly $500,000 to replace if the arbitration panel had ruled that Brandon owed them. They generate roughly $115,000 in revenue for the city every year. So it was another victory that the arbitration panel found that the city owns the docks fully and completely with no ownership stake by Brandon Services, and the city will keep those docks in their city property.
Yeah, no question about it. This could have been a very rough year for Buffalo and for the Water's Edge because when we went through the audit process, let's just say for whatever reason the arbitration group didn't really agree with what the auditors were saying. Okay, so that would be problematic. Then the vendor could actually take their ball and go home, meaning they could take that dock, floating docks, plural. And then at the end of the day, as you said, if Buffalo has to buy floating docks, it's like $450,000 plus. Yearly, the docks generate over $100,000 a year. It's a big hit if it was going to be a bad day for us in the arbitration. That's why you have to be right, and that's why I'm so proud of the audit team for doing good work.
Now, you mentioned the cafeteria. This former operator also used to operate the cafeteria downstairs.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They were, after it found out that they weren't paying the rent in the cafeteria downstairs, they were also replaced by the Department of Public Works and a new operators in there, Sue's Deli, and the reaction and feedback to their operation has been phenomenal, and the city employees and people from the outside really enjoy their food and know that the city's getting their fair share.
So I will tell you this, as the comptroller, I really don't care if they like the food or not. What I really care about is what the contract says. Mm-hmm. And if you do what the contract says monetarily for the city of Buffalo, then we're going to be good. And if your cheeseburger's also good and you have a Greek omelet that everybody loves, that's even better.
So just one final point on this. The arbitration panel and their decision really confirms the hard work that your audit team did and everything that they said in the audit, and really confirms their hard work and vindicates, there was some dispute on who was right during this process in those council meetings, but it was your case all along that this money was owed to the city, and to see it come in and to see an impartial arbitration panel agree with us is a positive development.
Yeah, no question about it. And quite frankly, this was a celebrated audit. Our audit team does audits every month, every year. That we've been in City Hall and in previous controllers. That's what you do. You do audits, and I think the Buffalo Common Council, especially because we clock in the audits so that they can see them. I would say if the citizens ask the Common Council the quality of work that these audits provide, and that the clear information that the lawmakers get at their fingertips, because they too have a responsibility to the citizens in making sure that the contracts work properly. And so I think they would be impressed, as I am, with the audit department.
Now, this audit will generate additional revenue from the city, and I want to talk after the break about the way that you decide on how to conduct audits so they do have an impact on Buffalo's bottom line.
Okay.
We have to take a brief break. Stay tuned for more Comptroller's Corner after this.
So, April.
Yeah?
You know your charger's still using energy when it's plugged into the wall, right?
Yeah, but that's not my charger. I don't even have a cell phone.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
Hi, welcome back to Comptroller's Corner. I'm your host, Pat Curry, joined as always by Buffalo Comptroller Mark Schroeder. The Comptroller has issued his Annual Audit Plan, which outlines his strategy for deciding where to focus his auditing resources. Now, Mark, when you first became Comptroller, you made it clear that you were going to use your auditing resources wisely. There's only so many audits you can conduct in a certain year, and you wanted to make sure that your audits had an impact on the city's bottom line and that you're using these resources wisely in order to either maximize revenues for the city or limit expenditures. And we just spent a great deal talking about the Erie Basin Marina, where you have been able to maximize the revenues coming in by finding out there was an operator that wasn't paying the city what they were entitled to. You're looking into the streetlight audit, which will make sure that the city's electricity expenses are exactly what we're paying for and that we're not paying more than we should. So this goes along with your overall strategy to have an impact fiscally with where you're spending your audit resources. Now, you do this every year. It's a report required by the charter. It's called your Annual Audit Plan. And the overall strategy stays the same of making an impact on the bottom line, maximizing revenues and limiting expenses. But this particular audit plan for this year kind of breaks it down into more of a quantified approach as far as which departments, which agencies you'll be looking at. And really, the audit plan weighs two different factors. The control risk on one hand, which is the likelihood of a particular operation being able to get skirted the rules around. For instance, if someone takes cash and handles cash, there's more of a control risk. There's more of a risk that cash can go into the wrong hands. And the other risk is the financial risk. So anytime where there's large sums of money involved, that is a greater financial risk to the city. And your auditing team is going to take every department, use the questionnaires that you sent them in the beginning of your term, and decide what's a control risk, how likely is there to be some fraud, waste, or mismanagement, and what's a financial risk, how big of an impact is this on the city's bottom line. And it takes those, and the ones with the most control risk and the most financial risk are the ones that you're going to prioritize when you're doing your audits.
Yeah, so let's go back to before even the audit plan. It's very important that you have the proper structure and that you have the proper team. And so within the Comptroller's office, there are 3 different divisions. The largest division is audit. And so we brought in, myself and Ann Forty-Sherino brought in 3 years ago, Kevin Kaufman, certified public accountant. It was the first time audit had a certified public accountant in like a decade, which in my view is ridiculous. And so when you bring in a certified public accountant who has credentials, you have the structure set up right. And then it's real simple. And as you stated it, it's expenditures and revenues, right? But then you take it to the next level. You have to have tools. And in order to use the tools properly, you have to be structured right and you have to have the right people. And so, as you know, and as the audience knows, when I first became the Comptroller 4 years ago, there's 42 employees up there, 42 to 45 employees. We had 1 certified public accountant. Now we have 8. And one of the new employees that Kevin Kaufman hired is a certified public accountant. And he was able to do this risk management program so that we can capture the most important and the most risk within the municipality, and that's exactly what we're looking at. I really would encourage, this is the first time we've done this risk factor in the audit plan, and I would encourage the citizens to call our office and or to go on our website, the Comptroller's website, which you will give at the end of the show, and get a copy of this, because it is really good work. And I think the citizens of Buffalo are going to feel confident that we know what we're doing. We have the right people. Not only do we have the right people who are skilled and who have the credentials, but they also all live in the city of Buffalo, and they're proud of their city, and they want to make sure we do the best we can each and every day.
Now, part of this is when you first became controller, you found that there'd be a misdeed or waste or mismanagement, and then the audit would come afterwards. Your strategy is to find that before it happens, and the marina is a testament to that approach, because you found these underpayments before anyone else did, and it showed that finding this stuff before it comes to light is always better than waiting till a mistake or waiting for an arrest or somebody stealing quarters from a machine to come in afterwards.
No question about it. You said something earlier that I just kind of want to expand on, and that is the questionnaires. And so in our office, we have a special assistant, Claire Waldron, and she's a CPA, and one of the things we asked her to do a couple of years ago is to do a questionnaire to all of the departments of the city, asking questions that would make sense and that would help us in audit if we decided to do an audit of their department. Because what I had found is that if you don't have the proper information at your disposal, it could take you a month before you even identify the right questions, and then it just takes too long to do the audit. So in the audit report, the city auditor does mention the questionnaire factor and how it was so important to them, and it's a factor. And so to me, this is, again, it has to do with structure. It has to do with bringing in credentialed people, people who know what they're doing and they know how to work together, and it's teamwork. So what Claire Waldron did in and of itself didn't matter much until the audit department used her information, and now they're using it to conduct audits going forward. Perfect.
Not only are they using it to conduct audits, but they're using it to help determine them where to audit and what's most vulnerable.
That's exactly
to
right.
People trying to steal money or waste or fraud or mismanagement. And the questionnaire is actually just like a pre-audit almost, to begin the process before the audit even takes place, and it was sent to every single agency and every department in the city of Buffalo just to know where we stand and know what controls are in place. And if the right controls aren't in place, you don't even have to do an audit for that. You can tell them, and we've sent letters saying more controls need to be put in place in this process, especially anything that cash is involved with, or any type of malfeasance or embezzlement or any that type of actions.
Yeah. So all in all, it, as you mentioned, it is a requirement. The charter says we have to do it, but we do it in such a way that we are setting ourselves up for success and the citizens of Buffalo by conducting the audits in the way that we do, and that we make it very clear to the Buffalo Common Council. In previous years, previous controllers would telegraph what they're going to audit. We don't do that. At the advice of the certified public accountant, you don't telegraph what you're going to audit so that everybody can kind of clean up a little bit, right? We're going to audit what we want to audit when we want to audit it, and that's how we do it, and that's how we will continue to do it as long as I'm the controller of the city of Buffalo.
And another part of your annual audit plan is using the guidelines from the Institute of Internal Auditors. Now, this is a national organization of internal auditors, and they have a set of guidelines that they use for auditing. And Kevin Kaufman, your CPA, city auditor, has used those guidelines and implemented them into this audit plan to make sure we're doing everything up to this top standards of the industry.
Patrick, another good point. Previous, that has never been used before, because some of these city auditors weren't CPAs. They had no idea this organization even exists. Kevin Kaufman knows it, and so he's going to use it as a tool to be helpful to him and to be helpful to his auditors. It's just a very good setup, and again, I'm very proud of our audit division.
I want to talk briefly about another division, the Division of Investment and Debt in your office. Now, you have been pretty frustrated with the low interest rates that the city is earning and everybody's earning on savings accounts and
From
reserves.
banks.
It's very low right now. It's some of the money it's 0.05 or 0.15% that the city is earning on millions of dollars worth of reserves and investments.
It's
and
like
savings.
nothing. It's like nothing.
You have kind of looked outside to other innovative approaches, and you've done this before, but you are actually lending the town of West Seneca money, and you've been able to increase the rate of return on that from 0.05 to 0.55, which is 11 times what you'd be earning in the bank. So this helps out West Seneca Central School District, which needs the money, and we get charged more by a bank than the city of Buffalo is charging, and we're also getting a higher rate of return that we would get from a bank. So it's an example of two municipalities who border each other, cooperating together, and they both win at the end of the day.
Yeah, so that's the key, and we're very proud of this. This started with me, me being an amateur historian, and I was reading about a previous comptroller in the 50s, Chester Cole, and he was frustrated, so he did something, and he called it idle funds. So you take idle funds, funds that are in a bank account earning nothing, in this particular case, and you figure out how to draw in revenue. And so the way that we do it is we do it with school districts. We've done 5 deals over the last 3 years. And so the reason why, Patrick, we do it with school districts is that there's an automatic intercept involved. So just in case the school district is having a bad day and they can't pay us back, the state intercepts and sends us the money. There's no risk to the citizens of Buffalo. No risk. And so at the end of the day, we've done 5 deals and we have brought in over $120,000 to the bottom line. If we did nothing, I would just continually be frustrated and I would be fighting with the banks day in and day out. But we figured out a way, and with the help of our office, and also especially the state comptroller, Tom DiNapoli's office, we do it with his guidance. We have been very successful, and quite frankly, we are the only municipality, we're the only city in the state of New York who has ever done a deal, let alone one deal. We've done 5 deals that benefit the taxpayers of the city of Buffalo, who I serve.
Now, Mark, we only have a minute left, but you did the next installment of your Audit and Control lecture series. We talked about your last lecture. It was the 7 habits of the
highly effective people.
7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
And that was Gary McGooey, and he did an excellent job. Now, the new one that you just did recently was Gary Keith from M&T Bank. He's an economist, and he showed your employees and some employees from the city's IT department some of the progress City of Buffalo has made on not only the projects that are coming over, but he showed you the hard numbers, especially with more young people staying in Buffalo and the upswing in technology and health sciences jobs that will be the key to Buffalo's economic future and shedding its old past as a manufacturing industry into a more sustainable future.
This is the first year that we've done it. We've set up the Comptroller's Speakers Series. It's at lunchtime. It's voluntary. Our employees come, and we've had 2 very good sessions. And this session, as you've mentioned, I have listened to global economists before. If I brought in a global economist, they would be sleeping in the conference room. We brought in an economist who is an expert on where we all live, Buffalo. And so the enthusiasm in the room and the questions back and forth, it was just outstanding. It was very successful.
Well, Mark, that's all the time we got for Comptroller's Corner. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here, Patrick. Thank you.
And thanks for joining us at home. Make sure to check out the Comptroller's website at city-buffalo.com/comptroller, our Twitter handle, our YouTube page, and our Facebook page. Thanks for joining us in Comptroller's Corner. This is Pat Curry on behalf of Mark Schroeder, signing off.